platform GS Motivator. Chamber for Service Industry is going live on YouTube with our regular webinar series in which we invite eminent speakers, experts in their field, keynote givers who can guide us, who can show us the vision, and who can take us towards the new things that are happening in the society, specifically related to service industry and different components of it. And in this particular series, in this particular webinar, today we have with us our special guest for the evening, Shri Ravindra Nath sir. He is very dear to us. He's like a guiding force for us. And he is the chairman for MSME, for Chamber for Service Industry. And as with that, he's a former CMD NSIC, that is National Small Industries Corporation. And today, when he is with us, what not to get an idea about the concept of PLI, Product Linked Incentive Scheme. So sir is today with us to talk onto this particular scheme and its impact on MSME. So without wasting any time, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome our dignitary for the evening, Shri Ravindra Nath ji. Sir, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chitraji. It's such a delight to be back on the program of Chamber for Service Industry. But at the same time, I must say that I'm missing my friend and our stalwart of the chamber, Dr. Gulshan Sharma ji. I wish that he comes back soon and in the best of health and always inspiring us with the passion he carries. It's a great topic which you have selected for today, PLI scheme and its impact on MSMEs. But before I start, I wish all the participants a very happy Navratri. May Lord Durga bless us all with best of times ahead, good health, lots of prosperity, and lots of happiness in today's times. But before I start on the topic, I'm reminded of the words of Dr. S. Jaishankar, our foreign minister, who, while I was reading his book, The India Way, I read, and I'm going to quote, he has said that events far away can have a dramatic impact on our daily lives and immediate surroundings. If any of us had doubts, the COVID pandemic has put those fully to rest. He further goes on to say, in a very different way, the consequences of Ukraine conflict raised our awareness of the implications of globalization. Friends, indifference to global developments is no longer affordable. The global order is always evolving. And in that sense, change could well be a constant factor. New centers of production and consumption have come up with the accompanying political consequences. Technologically, India has entered an existence of great promise and also huge vulnerabilities. For India, this is summed up as Atmanirbhar Bharat, make in India and make for the world. That is where the production-linked incentive or the PLI scheme is yet another addition to the list of reforms introduced by our Honorable Prime Minister under the aegis of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And if we all recognize and see around us, a lot of investments has been done in long-term growth of our manufacturing sector by providing strong financial booster shots in production-linked incentive scheme, as well as certain other reforms which are happening around us. Gati Shakti, which is providing multimodal connectivity to manufacturing zones across India, the ease of doing business, the cluster parks with plug-and-play infrastructure, the one district, one product launched to support artisans and manufacturers at the district levels. Spurti scheme, a cluster-based scheme to make traditional industries more productive, profitable, and capable of generating sustained employment. scrapping all these irrelevant laws, almost 1,500 of them having been done away with, and introducing corporate tax regime. Let me tell you, and I'm sure most of us would be knowing, that the PLI scheme as envisioned is built on the foundation of 14 sectors with an incentive outlay of 1.97 trillion rupees, equivalent to almost 26 billion US dollars, just to strengthen the production capacities of these 14 sectors and help create global champions. And if I may just mention that the PLI scheme has been specifically designed to boost manufacturing in sunrise and strategic sectors, invite foreign companies to set up units in India, alongside encouraging the local companies to set up and expand their manufacturing units, the existing capacities which they hold, I'm sure which will have a beneficial spillover effect via the creation of a big supplier base for the anchor units to be established under the scheme. The ultimate vision of our Honorable Prime Minister is to create global champions in manufacturing, enhance the domestic capacities, enable exports, curb imports, and reduce import bills. This will transform into huge population which we have into a productive workforce. And it is also pertinent to mention that the government cannot continue to make sustained investments in capital-intensive sectors simply because they have long gestation periods. So what does the government do? The government then decides to attract large investments by putting up incentive rates for the schemes being designed with a tapering off effect to motivate and encourage industries to unlock their inherent potential and become drivers of an ecosystem that is self-sustaining and which thrives after the conclusion of the incentive regime. So it's not going to be an ever-ending scheme where we continue to give. It's basically to boost the existing scales, to boost the production in the manufacturing units, and enable them to become global champions. And this scheme and its associated ecosystem will ensure that India is well positioned to develop a resilient global value chain, which will continue to provide national security in the evolving global scenario. And with this background, we would have understood that the intent is very clear. The intent is to make our manufacturing sector globally competitive and thereby make India Atmanirbhar and take advantage of the current geopolitical situation. When you look at the PLI scheme, it all started in March 2020 with 3 of the PLI schemes being introduced. Department of Pharmaceutical had the key starting materials drug or the KSMs. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology had the large-scale electronics manufacturing. And the Department of Pharmaceutical also had the manufacturing of medical devices. Then in November 2020, it was followed by another 10 PLI schemes. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology had the electronics / technology products. Department of Pharmaceuticals had the pharmaceutical drugs. Department of Telecommunications had the telecom and networking products. The Ministry of Food Processing had the food products, and the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade had white goods, the ACs and the LEDs. The Ministry of New and Renewable Energy had the high efficiency solar PV modules. The Department of Heavy Industry had the automobile and the auto components. And also they had the advanced chemistry cell or the ACC batteries. Ministry of Textiles had the textile products, MMF segment and the technical textiles. And the Ministry of Steel had the specialty steel. Further, in September 2021, saw the introduction of the final tranche of the PLI, that is the 14th one, which had the drones and the drone components under the Ministry of Civil Aviation. The project management of all these has been assigned to various special units, the various PSUs and the various companies who are dealing with them. The Industrial Finance Corporation, or the IFCI, handles about 10 sectors, followed by SIDBI, Beacon, IREDA, and the Solar Energy Corporation. Now, what one may wonder as to what is the likely impact of the PLI envisaged on the overall economy. The scheme envisaged providing on an average 5% of the production value as an incentive, which implies that the minimum production of India as a result of the PLI scheme is expected to be over INR 38 lakh crores in the coming 5 years, that is 21 to 26. And this massive boost in production has the potential to create 1.40 crore man-months worth of jobs directly from 2021-22 onwards, which translates to effectively doubling the existing workforce across sectors. And with the inclusion of suppliers and vendors of the manufacturing companies benefiting from the PLI, a total of 4.20 crore man-months of jobs are set to be generated, as per the data of the Indian Staffing Federation. So, the PLI scheme is expected to have a cascading effect, having a lasting impact on the micro and small and medium enterprises. Along with the anchor units, the supplier units will also generate more production, along with the primary and secondary employment opportunities. The success of the PLI has already been felt. It's making a huge difference, giving a kickstart to manufacturing in a way that will get into a positive spiral. It will have a big impact on the overall economy of a country. Though we are only second in the almost the second or third year, 21-22, 22-23, or 23-24 now, of the 5-year PLI, the positive impact of the PLI will only accelerate as we move forward and will go a long way beyond the end of the scheme, that is the 5 years. We have already witnessed a gradual shift in the India's export basket, from the traditional commodities to the high value added products, such as electronics, telecommunications, goods, processed food products, etc. The PLI sector has seen an increase in the FDI flows also in the last few years, with the drugs and pharmaceutical having a plus 46%, the food processing industries having a plus 26%, and the medical appliances a huge plus 91%. And in the 14 PLI sectors, the last figures which have been reported by the ministry, there are 733 applications which have been approved till August 2023 in 14 sectors which are expected with an investment of 3.65 trillion in INR. Along with the large industries, there are 176 MSMEs also getting benefited under the direct PLI. And the PLI has generated actual investments of almost 62,500 crores, resulting in incremental production sales of over 6.75 lakh crores, having created about 3.25 lakh new jobs and boosted exports to the tune of almost 2.56 lakhs crores. These are the various figures which I have taken from the government data, and I'm sure these figures are mounting day in and day out, and there would be a huge growth in these figures because that is what is visible in the sectors around us. At the same time, there are no takers for the PLI in some of these 6 of the 14 sectors also, which is a point to be pondered, and I thought it must be mentioned. And some of these are the steel, the textile, the battery, the white goods. But the success stories, they cannot be ignored. And one of the big success stories is that in the mobile phones. The PLI has enabled large the major smartphone companies, namely Foxconn, Wistron, Pegatron, to shift their supplier base to India. And as a result, top high-end phones are being manufactured in India. iPhone is in big news these days because of this reason, though certain competitors are trying to cook up all sorts of stories, but then India's glory doesn't fade away, and it is going to grow even bigger in the times to come. India has increased the value addition in the mobile phone sector to almost 20% in the last 3 years, which is indeed very good compared to its peers. And the PLI scheme for the large-scale electronics manufacturing, or the LSEM, along with the existing phased manufacturing program, the PMP, has led to increased value addition in the electronics sector and smartphone manufacturing by almost 23% and 20% respectively from the negligible figures of 2014-2015. And another sector where the PLI is for the white goods, which has substantially boosted the local values which are there. The domestic AC industry is working towards increasing the localization content from 25% to 75% in the 5 years. And it is targeting to acquire a reasonable share of the global exports in room air conditioners from a minuscule share which we had earlier. Most of these air conditioners were either coming from China, Taiwan, Bangkok, and the companies. Now all of them are moving and shifting the base to India. There is an increased confidence in the Indian companies to play in the global arena thanks to the support which the PLI scheme has given. The telecom sector has achieved the import substitution to 60%, with a big increased self-reliance in antenna, gigabyte passive optical network, or the GPON, and customer premises equipment, or the CPE. The drones, a subject which is so much talked about these days, a strategic sunrise sector, has seen significant momentum post-PLI, particularly in the growing number of promising startups in the drone manufacturing. Medical devices, another important sector with high import dependency to the tune of 75 to 80%, and yet high export potential. India can become the global manufacturing and export hub for medical devices, and thanks to the PLI support, the sector has achieved a committed investment of 1,206 crores with an actual investment of 714 crore to date. Tech giants like Wipro, GE, Siemens are increasing their manufacturing footprints in India. It's very encouraging to see domestic manufacturing of high-end medical devices like MRI scans, CT scans, mammograms, high-end X-ray tubes, etc., all starting in India. But then, what's the impact on MSMEs? I would like to refer to one of the responses which the Minister for MSME gave in the Parliament, where he said there is no proposal under consideration for a dedicated PLI scheme for the MSME sector. And at the same time, I would like to mention that the inclusion of traders in the MSMEs would only encourage imports. So until an incentive is provided, units would prefer to import instead of producing. The government should consider a PLI scheme for the MSMEs, as this is where the bulk manufacturing happens. A lot of the MSME associations are keen and have expressed interest to the government that the PLI scheme should be announced for the small units. I also say this because we all know that the MSMEs face the legacy of issues like information asymmetry, non-registration, inadequate and untimely credit, delayed receivables, technological obsolescence, negligible market linkages, absence of the exit policy. And I'm sure all these challenges will get addressed once we have an ecosystem which has PLI for the MSMEs, But there are certain encouraging words coming from the Director General and CEO of the Federation of Indian Export Organization, the FIO, where he says, I believe the PLI schemes would result in a hub and spoke model, where large companies will set up their manufacturing capabilities and MSMEs would evolve around them as ancillaries. That's one thing where the MSMEs are the strongest. Whether we look at the Maruti model or certain other big companies coming, MSMEs are the strongest ancillaries to all these big manufacturers. And we have seen this happening in the automobile sector. We will be seeing this happening even in various other sectors, which, whether it is the medical sector, whether it is the pharmaceutical sector, or whether it is the telecom sector. And in his view, further, it is being said that the country needs to incentivize the R&D investment to face global competition, to enable the MSMEs to better face the global competition. Our R&D investment is lowest amongst most of our major competitors, be it South Korea or be it Malaysia. And thus some kind of tax concessions on R&D should be provided. This is what even we have been discussing in our chamber, that there needs to be some sort of a growth model by way of tax concessions, tax reliefs to the MSMEs, where incentives are given for them to bring in more of technological modernization and enable them to face the obsolescence which becomes a big hindrance for their growth. The notion that the benefits of PLI schemes have been limited to the large firms is negated by the spillover effects of the benefits of the scheme, which are definitely going to reach out. So largely, the PLI scheme amongst all these sectors is what has pushed the Indian manufacturing sector further. And if we really look at the way the structure of the MSMEs works, the structure of our manufacturing sector works, it is definitely that both will be growing together. But dedicated scheme for the MSMEs is definitely going to help. And in times to come, to make India a global manufacturing hub, along with the PLI schemes, certain reforms would also be needed, such as focusing on the supply chain locations, focusing on the service industry also, focusing on the key challenges which are there in the manufacturing sector through initiatives which need to be taken with respect to reduction in costs, with respect to encouraging states to be more competitive and not indulge in trade restrictive practices like job reservations for locals, etc. Also, the implementation of structural reforms such as land reforms. India needs to improve upon the human capital to meet the demands of the sunrise industries. And also, we need to utilize the evolving global scenario so that we can offer India and utilize this golden opportunity so as to act fast to attract the outgoing investments from China. The government needs to rectify the challenges faced by the Indian firms in the manufacturing sector. And I'm sure India can become a global manufacturing hub of having best of international companies with us. Chitraji, in the brief time which you have given me, this is what I would like to share with the participants. And I'm sure there's a lot more which we can discuss in the further programs of ours.
Yes,
and
sir.
If there are questions, which definitely we would like to do, though I've given most of the statistics also.
Ji, sir. Ji.
Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for giving this insight to us, sir. Few questions have come. I would quickly want to take them. Very first one is that, so under PLI scheme, generally the incentives that government is giving, the government is giving the incentives for what? Like to establish, to purchase, or if they are purchasing for?
It is with respect to the investments which are to be made.
Ji,
And
ji.
those can be benefited. And then the export incentives also come up.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. And this incentives when they are providing, so what is the duration, like when they will getting the companies will getting the amount, like it's
See,
annually?
the scheme is largely for 5 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
During that period, like I was telling you, some of these sectors,
Hmm.
like in the steel industry, the textile industry, or the batteries, the white goods, the solar panels,
Ji,
the
ji,
scheme didn't take off very well. The
ji,
government is constantly thinking of revising and remodeling it.
ji.
And that's how they will be addressing these concerns.
Right, sir. So another question has come, sir. Are there any specific performance or compliances requirement that MSMEs must meet to continue or to start receiving incentives under PLI scheme?
See, as I said, and as I shared the views of the minister which he had given in the parliament, there
Ji,
is
ji,
not a separate PLI scheme for the MSME sector.
ji,
This is
ji.
what this is largely to benefit the bigger companies and to attract them to come to India.
Mhm,
We can design a program where the specific benefits under each of the sectors
mhm.
we can share with our participants.
Ji, ji,
But with respect to the MSME sector, as there is no special scheme, the
ji.
only benefit which accrues to them is they can become ancillaries to the big companies
Right.
and then take benefits of the manufacturing basis, which they will do it. Because most of the manufacturing, the larger companies always offload their some of their what you call the manufacturing components to the
Ji,
small enterprises, and that
ji,
is how they get it. But
ji.
the incentives for the MSMEs per se have
Mm.
not been brought so far. We
Okay.
can come up with another program whenever convenient for our chamber,
Ji,
where
sir.
we will take up exclusively what are the incentives given under each of the segments and
Right.
how they can be taken advantage of.
Sure, sir. Sure. So you have also mentioned about one district, one product. So under that, when government is planning for PLI, so we have now GI tags are also given to the product, specific product. So that is also linked with somewhere with PLI.
No, see, that I mentioned because along with the PLI, the government has introduced various reforms
G, G,
where
G,
they are promoting the manufacturing to happen in India. See,
G,
the ease of doing business was one. Then
G.
setting up of the cluster parks where the plug and play infrastructure is available,
Mm-hmm.
and also to promote one district, one product, like it has been done so well in UP. That is where these are the various incentives or the initiatives which have been taken by the government.
Mm-hmm.
Alongside is the PLI.
G, 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 sir.
Yeah.
And also, sir, would like to ask that drone manufacturing comes under MSME. Can
No,
it become?
no, it has been taken under the Ministry of Civil Aviation.
Right, right. Thank you, sir. And one last question for today's webinar. As you said, the questions are long. Discussion is very much onto this. We'll definitely dedicate one another webinar for this particular
Certainly.
topic. But for now, sir, if I would like to ask you that what advice would you give to MSMEs looking to maximize their benefit for this particular scheme in their respective industry, maybe not presently existing, but definitely will come in future. So how they should prepare for that? What
See,
advice would you like to give?
see, one of these is all these sectors which are there, even if they, for some reason, they could not take benefits of this,
G,
whether it was large scale electronics manufacturing, look at the pharmaceutical sector, look at
Hanji,
the medical equipment sector, or even for that matter, the white goods sector.
G,
All these are now, if you look at the automobile, how radically things are changing in the automobile sector with the
yes,
EVs coming. So all
Hanji,
these sectors, if the MSMEs focus on what is going to evolve in the times to come, and then we get ourselves aligned to such sectors. I would say even if there is no specific PLI for the MSME, but
G,
then if these sectors grow, their ancillaries are definitely going to grow, both
G,
in numbers as well as in the size.
G,
Those who are already there, are certainly going to be benefited, and they would have already started benefiting
Ji.
in all these sectors.
Right.
And I'm sure the government is also beginning to feel that, and it was recently in the news, that the PLI scheme needs to be enhanced to certain other sectors.
Ji.
Wherever it has not been able to take off,
Mhm.
the government is reviewing it, and I'm sure the government is going to take remedial measures to have a course correction as
Ji.
to what are the reasons why these things could not take off.
Ji. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Understood very well. And thank you for sharing all the information with us. And thanks for coming.
Welcome.
The very fun
Welcome.
first thing is, sir, thank you for coming. And we want to have more such webinars with you, sir, because the insight that you give us now, and the way you explain things to us, it is very simplified and very well taken. So we request you for more such sessions, sir.
We will do it. Certainly, we'll do it. And thank you so much for giving me a chance to again come back on Dr. Gulshan Sharma's program. And I wish very soon we'll see him also back. And, in the best of health and happiness. And great festivities and festival season ahead to all the participants.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.